Break the board sports. Here we go. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Looking at this Friday matchup, huge one. Georgia Tech in the Battle of Georgia. Now, listen, Georgia still got an opportunity to get to the SEC championship game. Georgia Tech, on the other hand, they have an outside shot at the ACC championship game, but they need a lot of help. This, though, the game really means nothing for Georgia, and for Georgia Tech, it's all about pride, putting a big win on their resume in case they were able to sneak in. Georgia's pretty much locked in to the college football playoff. You would think a lot of madness would have to happen for them to not get in, even if they lost this game to Georgia Tech. So let's hop into handicap, help you here either side. Now, this game is ballooned all the way up to 14.5. Georgia's laying 14.5. Again, this is in the Georgia Dome. 59.5 is the over-under. Now, 53% of the handle, 68% of the bets going to the over on this one. 47% of ticket count, 32% of the handle going to the under. Now, as far as the side, the money right down the middle, 50-50. Vegas couldn't ask for better. Again, books always want a 50-50 split. They're guaranteed money in that part. 56% of the ticket count on Georgia, 44% of the ticket count is on Georgia Tech in this one. Now, look, when you hop in, go into this, Georgia 5-2 ATS over their last 7 games, but 7-0 in that same time frame. Georgia will get into their schedule and kind of their resume coming into this game. They've won 7 straight against Georgia Tech, dominating that as far as from a win standpoint, but it's been a little closer, and we'll get into that in a second. Georgia Tech 9-2 straight up their last 11. Georgia Tech has failed to beat an SEC opponent in their last 11 matchups. They're 0-11 versus the SEC. Now, between these two teams, the over is cashed 4 of the last 6, and 4 of the last 5 games Georgia Tech has played in, that has went to the over as well. Excuse me. The under for Georgia, however, has cashed 4 of the last 6. Now, both teams come in 9-1. Like I said, even with a loss here, Georgia's in college football playoff. Georgia Tech 9-1. If they were to put the win on their resume and get into this ACC championship game, and again, there's a lot of different scenarios. They kind of got to leapfrog the whole Virginia mess. They need Pittsburgh, obviously, to lose to Miami. So a lot going on there. But Georgia Tech 6-4 against the number. Georgia 4-5-1 against the number. Now, Georgia, since that 24-21 loss to Alabama, which is the only blemish on their record, they've been on a roll. They beat Kentucky handedly, beat Auburn by 10, beat Ole Miss by 8, beat Florida by 4, Mississippi State by 20, and then Texas last week routed them by 25. Now, Georgia Tech, the only blemish on there was the NC State game they had, which just did not go to the way they wanted to whatsoever in that. When you look at Georgia Tech here and you look at what they're trying to get done, again, they had the loss to NC State, then they had the loss to Pittsburgh. I said 9-1. It's actually 9-2. Apologies on that one. So, again, Georgia Tech just going to need a lot of help here coming down the stretch. When you look at the ticket count, you look at the common opponents, there's no common opponents. Again, Georgia Tech's played in a weak ACC. So this game, I do still like King. I like what Georgia Tech has. I think they're a really good football team. Again, that loss to Pittsburgh, though, kind of soured me last week. Now, last year, these two teams played 44-42 in overtime. The year before, Georgia beat them by 8 in 2023. So the last 2 years have been extremely competitive between the two teams. When you look offense, defense, Georgia 33.6 points per game on the offensive side of the football. Georgia Tech 36 points per game. Now, Georgia 15th best country points per game in the nation, giving up 18.5. Georgia Tech giving up 24.5. So the numbers are comparable here from a statistical standpoint. When I look at this, I'm all over Georgia Tech plus 14.5. Give me the Rambling Wreck. I think they keep this game close. Again, game really means nothing, especially to Georgia. Georgia Tech, they could kind of backdoor their way into this thing. But, however, Georgia Tech's played them tight the past 2 years. As far as from an offensive and defensive points per game, they're comparable. I love what King does. This isn't your dad's Georgia. Georgia isn't as good as they've been in previous years, especially on the defensive side of the football. Georgia Tech plus 14.5 is the play. Click that like, hit subscribe. Break the Board Sports, where we help you become a better handicapper. God bless and happy handicapping.